I'm Eric Wolf, and my experience in business peer groups has changed my life, especially my membership in Vistage, one of the world's largest CEO advisory groups. I'm an entrepreneur, a business owner, and a Vistage speaker on the power of marketing. This podcast is dedicated to the people who make those experiences possible, the peer group chairs. Every episode, I interview a Vistage chair who has dedicated their time to helping entrepreneurs like me succeed. My guest today is Summer Goldman. Very seasonal name. We have passed into autumn, but you are still summer, so that's awesome. Mm-hmm. And Summer comes to us as a very fresh Vistage chair. Her small business group was just minted earlier this year, officially let out into the ecosystem, and welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
So I'd love to hear about, so first of all, I would love to hear about what the process was like for you in starting this group, and high points, low points. I know it's a challenging process.
It is. It's probably one of the most challenging seasons of my life. Was getting that launched. I'm a high performer. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. I'm a high performer. I have an incredible sense of urgency. So I want to win, and I want to win really quickly. That is not a good skill set, or not a good characteristic to have when you're building a Vistage.
It requires a wee tiny bit of patience, I hear.
It does. It's not. I wouldn't even say patience. I would say persistence, diligence, discipline. It requires all of those things. And you have to know that the end goal is worth the work and the challenge. Because there's a lot of being told no. And I think when you've been an executive in an organization, you don't get told no a lot. And so it's a little humbling, which is probably not a bad thing, but it's a lot of work. But
how did you adjust to that? How did you? So number one, how long did the culture shock take of oh my God, I'm running this up all of these flagpoles, and a lot of people are telling me no. How long did it take you to pick up on that, and then how long did it take you to change your mind frame about it?
Yeah, so it didn't take me long to figure that out, or to know that I was going to get a lot of no's, right? Or folks that maybe hadn't heard about Vistage, they didn't know the value of it, and maybe weren't really willing to listen to me about it. It didn't take long to figure that out. What I did personally for myself is I gamified it and gave myself grace. Like, I knew I wasn't going to be able to sit for multiple hours and do all of that kind of work. So I'd be like,
right.
I'm just going to do this for an hour. I'm going to take a walk, like. And then certainly gamified it, celebrated the wins. But I believe in the power of peer advisory. And so I really wanted as many people as possible to know about it. And that underlying knowing that what I was talking about is valuable helped a lot.
And where did that come from? Your affinity for advisory groups, and what was, so where did that start? Mm-hmm. And then I would love to hear about the path that led you. I know that you had a corporate career. I know that you also do your own consulting beyond what you do for Vistage. So what was the path that led you from corporate to there, and to Vistage, and why peer groups?
Yeah, that's actually fun, because I'm a firm believer that when you're on the right path, every moment prior to this moment that you're in led you to this one. And I believe that Vistage is supposed to be part of my path. So corporate career, I got to lead some amazing teams. And the teams that were most fulfilling, I had really great peer leaders around me that I could bounce ideas off of. I also knew that the higher I got in the organization, the fewer of those that I had. So there was this a little bit. Loneliness is a good word, but certainly that desire to have feedback from someone who understood. And so I had that in my own experience, like that corporate world. I didn't know about Vistage. I learned about Vistage later after I left corporate world. But I know that the moments that have been the most fulfilling and passionate of my life have been ones where I'm helping other people.
Yeah.
I really like to support other people. And as I learned about Vistage and Vistage vetted me and I vetted Vistage, it's such a like a combination of those things of me getting to help other people and provide those relationships that I knew that I needed when I was in corporate America.
Yeah. Um, d- uh, Talk a little bit about your consulting practice and how that fits into your whole ecosystem.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I have a whiteboard that's sitting right across from me. At the top of it, it says, I'm going to read it. I love helping people succeed. And I
Awesome.
do. So I do that on both ends. There's some that I do for specific organizations. And then I feel like I get to do the same thing with Vistage just on a much deeper level.
You're also from one of my most favoritist parts of the country, Louisville, Kentucky. I love it. I did the Bourbon Trail for my 40th birthday. I mean, and it's kind of a unique place.
Mhm.
Um, uh, Kentucky is definitely sort of a different environment than a lot of the country, and Louisville is a very different vibe when you compare it to the rest of Kentucky. How has your geography informed the way that you go about things with your group and with your practice and how you help people?
Outside of having a seat for the bourbon industry, you know, I don't know that it's terribly different than it would be in any other organization. What has been wonderful about Louisville is that it is an established Vistage community. I think I'm the eighth chair. Now there are no other small business groups established at this point. But I am the eighth chair. There's about 350 CEOs involved. And so it's Vistage already had this great reputation, which has been super helpful for me because,
Right.
there's some explaining I have to do, but the ones who get Vistage and are really helpful with that network.
When you're oh, how should I ask this? You are the only small business chair in Louisville or in the area, and actually there are relatively few of those groups
Mhm.
um, nationwide still. So you've got you're in sort of a niche,
Mhm.
and I don't want to overstate it, but you're not a big, and of course it's a Vistage designation, it's their sort of name for the group, but you're not a fan of the nomenclature of the small business group.
Yeah. So the word small business actually did a little like completely low anecdotal. It's a very anecdotal poll on LinkedIn when I started doing this, asking folks when I say small business, what does it mean? And a lot of the responses were like mom and pop or like super micro small. And that's kind of the underlying challenge that I have with the terminology is that there is a connotation and it's not representative of the types of folks um, that I've brought into my group. They're entrepreneurs, and there's nothing small about them. There's nothing small about what they contribute to our community and to the world, really. And there's
Right.
nothing small about the way they think, or the way they work, or the teams that they built. They're entrepreneurs, which is the word that I would prefer to use.
And and how do you think that the the way that these entrepreneurs are going about their business, is it I mean it's not fundamentally different than a lot of the other Vistage members that you meet, I assume.
Yeah, I agree. The difference is the conversations that we have. So everyone in my group specifically, they're all disruptive to their industry in some way. And they don't have fully formed executive teams. They've got, probably less than 50 people in their entire organization, but they're scaling and they're doing big things. And so the conversations that we have aren't necessarily the same conversations that you would have with a legacy corporation that's been around for 75 years and is on their third CEO. 80% of my group is is the first CEO their organization's ever had. 80% own some, if not all, of their organization. It's just there's just a different nuance to the conversations we have.
And they're not necessarily, I mean, maybe it's that they're typically not mature businesses in the same way that a lot of, I mean, because I'm a Vistage CE member and I have been for 5 years. And if I look at the makeup of my group and my and our sister group, there's a lot of there's a lot of bigger businesses. We've got several that have been, handed down through the generations and families. We've got companies with 25, 30-year longer legacies. We've got people who are not necessarily owners in the business, but are still in fact chief executives. So I can definitely see that, and I also definitely understand the hesitancy to peg something as small business, because the definition of small business, when you look at how the government defines it, for example, or the SBA, or anybody who does research,
Yeah.
it's extremely different than what a lot of people think of when they say, well, hey, I took a job at a small business. They're thinking about a mom and pop, or they're thinking about somebody working out of their basement, or a solopreneur type of situation. And that's part of it, but that's not the only way that small business gets done.
Mhm.
So you've had a handful of meetings now under your belt.
Like seven. It's
What,
6 or 7. Yeah.
what would you say? What is like without violating any confidentiality, clearly, but what's the best conversation that you've had in your group so far? What was the
Mhm.
biggest thing where you left the meeting that day and you said, "Man, we really crushed it today"?
Yeah. So this one's pretty personal. We My last new member that we brought on, we did an exercise where everyone went around the room and talked about the value that they receive from Vistage, because I think it's really important for new members to hear that, to understand what they're about to walk into. And I was personally, like, emotionally moved by the positivity and the good change in the direction, and the input and the feedback that they have been able to apply in their organizations within just a few months. I mean, these most of these folks didn't even know each other before they walked into the room together in March.
And
And
that's typical,
but I didn't, I mean, I saw it, but I didn't see it.
right?
No one had mirrored that back to me or verbalized it. And it was such just, oh, we're on the right track. Just knew we were on the right track.
If you had, and the last question that I like to ask folks is, if you were sitting across the table from somebody like right now, and not me because I'm already in Vistage, but if you were looking at somebody and they were telling you, you know what, I'm an entrepreneur, I've been doing this a few years, I don't know how to build out the rest of my executive team, I don't know how I'm going to grow in my marketplace.
Mhm.
I'm trying to figure it all out, and I've got nobody to talk to. What would what advice would you give that person about the peer group experience?
Yeah. So best advice I would give them is actually to talk to one of my members and ask all those questions and let them hear, kind of eyeball to eyeball with someone else that's in the exact position that they're in. Let them hear about it. What I explained to them that they get out of Vistage is, they get all these folks that have either already experienced or are experiencing what they are, and the ability to get with other brains who understand that entrepreneurship journey, because it is a journey, it is lonely, and your friends and family don't understand. So to
Yep.
get to have a space every single month for you to be in a room with people that really understand, there's just, I can't think of a better way to spend a few hours every month and having those conversations.
That's really well said. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me for a few minutes today. I really appreciate you for nobody else was here, but we had all kinds of technical difficulties. Thank you for bearing with us. And what's the best way if people have questions about Vistage, if they have questions about your group, about the small business groups in general, what's the best way for folks to reach you?
I'm very active on LinkedIn. So search for Summer Dixon. That's Dixon Goldman. So Summer Dixon Goldman. I'm happy to respond to messages there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Chairwaves. You can subscribe to our feed using Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your platform of choice. You can also visit chairwaves.com for more information. Chairwaves is hosted and produced by me, Eric Wolf, and to connect with me, you can visit my website at ewolf.live. That's EWOLF.live. And a disclaimer, while I love Vistage and CEO peer groups, this podcast is not owned by or affiliated with Vistage or any other peer organization. Thanks for listening.